just laid our 2-year-old Lucy down to bed when all of a sudden we looked at each other and we said, "The stars." So we picked up Lucy out of her pack and play and put a jacket on her as we rushed outside. Lucy was confused. She was rubbing her eyes until her dad said, "Lou, look up. You can see the stars." She tilted her little head back and looked up at the sky. As she saw the stars gleaming in the sky, she said, "Wow." For the next little bit, we danced and as Lucy sang "Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star," and listened as she counted the dots of light in the sky over and over again. In that moment, I took a step back and watched my family. And it reminded me that exactly 10 years ago, I had been at Ghost Ranch for a different kind of retreat. And one night, my friends and I sat around our campfire as we caught our first glimpses of the Milky Way. It was the first time I had ever seen those ripples through our galaxy. And here I was sharing this moment of a big night sky with my daughter in the same place 10 years later. As I took stock of my life at that moment, I couldn't help but marvel. What a journey, what a trek, what an adventure. The years in between were full of joy and love, loss, travel, more moves than I could ever count, friends and love. And in the twists and turns, I couldn't have possibly imagined that I would return to the same place where I sat around that fire all those years ago. The road isn't straight. That is our closing theme for this Christmas and Advent season. And it is one that resonates so deeply within me. And perhaps it does for you as well. While there has been deep truth in all these weekly themes, this is the only one I feel in real time. Back at the beginning of Advent, we talked about remembering that we are God's beloved, that we are a blessing. And we also talked about how we can't go on this journey alone, and doing the good that is ours to do, and that love knows our name. But oftentimes, to recall those moments in my life, I have to step back and reflect on my life. However, my body and my soul knows that this road is not straight. Because all the twists and turns are like feeling every bump in the road. For instance, it's like the time my daughter switched her favorite milk cup on me. This happened 2 weeks ago. And all hell broke loose in our house at bedtime when I accidentally brought the one she cherished just the night before. The road isn't straight. Or the time when I changed my major 3 different times in my undergrad because I didn't know what I wanted to do. The road isn't straight. Or when my parents called to tell me that my grandpa was dying. The road isn't straight. When my heart was broken wide open again and again and again, the road isn't straight. And we know this. We know this in our bones because all of us have had moments in our lives that have caused us to pivot, to change direction, or retrace our steps. And those are moments we tend not to forget. They are etched within us like the grooves on our fingertips, both good and bad, telling the stories of our lives. We know that this road isn't straight. And if any biblical characters know this to be true, it is the Magi, these wealthy men of political status from the Far East who follow the astronomical compass to worship this new king. Much like Bethlehem and Nazareth, the Persians, the Far East, have also felt the effects of Roman occupation. A new regime has come to the throne in Persia, and the Western Roman rule has led to the disappearance of Persian culture and traditions. And while some in the Far East found comfort in this new way of living, others feared for the survival of their people and culture and searched for ways to preserve their livelihoods. And scholars believe that these magi just might be some of these zealous people. In the words of scholar and author Kelly Nikohinda in her book, The First Christmas in Palestine, the Magi were even willing to go westward to find this. They were willing to go westward like Abraham of Ur to a place they did not know. A move likely rooted in resistance, and perhaps in the sign of an indigenous king to be restored to the Judean throne. They recognize a hope, not unlike their own for a restored Persian ruler. The Magi discerned in the star the possibility of hope. The wise men followed the star rooted in hope, not out of promise or guarantee, but out of hope that if something amazing could happen to the Judeans, like a Judean king born in Bethlehem, then perhaps their home might experience something like that too. Maybe Persia might be liberated too. The road isn't straight. The Magi weave their ways through the desert lands and terrain. They encounter Herod, who is not too different from their own rulers back home, and they continue on. More than an act of reverence, this journey to the king is an act of hope, a faithful resistance to the fear and all that is wrong in their home and in this world. And after these strangers leave their mark and their gifts to a family in a land far from where they're from, they could have easily returned the same way they came. But instead, they chart the stars again and trust the celestial bodies and their own intuitions and gut feelings and dreams to guide them once again to safety. To follow the star is an act of hope. The road was never straight and narrow. The road is always the way of the stars, weaving across the countryside, walking with faith. Dear ones, this road isn't straight, and that might be the very thing that saves our lives. In their book of Hope, A Survival Guide for Trying Times, Jane Goodall and Douglas Abrams talk about the essential nature of hope within humanity and creation. During their conversation, Abrams shares some of the research he has gleaned about hope, and he tells Goodall that people who hope are more likely to act to make those hopes come true than those who just simply wish or dream. Goodall responds, that's because hope is a survival strategy. Hope is innate within us. It keeps us alive. Hope is the way we engage with problems of our world. Hope is not blind optimism. In fact, people who believe in hope are more likely to plan for and work around challenges that stand in their way. In the words of Douglas Abrams, hope is a way to engage with our problems, not to avoid them. Now, dear ones, here is a hard truth. If the road was ever straight and narrow, if all of life was easy and it went exactly how we planned it to go, we would not need hope. But the truth is, life is not easy. Our lives are not linear, and they never will be. But hope, like a star, is a survival strategy. And when we nurture it, when we follow it, when we experience life in its fullness, because of the unpredictability and heartbreak in life, there is hope. And that saves our lives if we let it. Hope is the gift the wise men brought with them to the manger, and it is a gift they have instilled in all of our lives. The road isn't straight, and hope is a gift. One of the ways we can nurture hope is by practicing it. There is a modern practice in Christianity called Epiphany star words. As we remember the Magi and the star that guided them, and also the gifts they brought, people are encouraged to pick a curated word from a basket. And that word becomes their spiritual focus for the year. There are words such as patience, creativity, joy, and prayer. Sometimes star words are even in other languages. Here is the deal, though. Much like we can't force a flower to bloom, and we can't make the star point us in the direction we want it to go, we can't make these star words happen in our lives. Star words are not another resolution to try and fail at. Rather, your star word is a guide, a survival strategy, something to notice and be curious about. Rather than plan your life around this word, let your life unfold and see where this word turns up. Lucy drew her first star word in 2022. She was just over a year old. And I kid you not, her word was proclaim. And that year we watched her find her voice. From her language development to her beginning to sing and make music, we watched our child's life unfold, and we saw how she proclaimed her presence and also God's love. If proclaim hadn't been a star word, or if we hadn't done star words at all, would she have still done most of these things? Yeah, absolutely. 1-year-olds are notorious for a rapidly expanding vocabulary. But what the star word practice offered us as a family was a way to treasure and unpack what we were experiencing as parents, as a young child, and as people of faith. And that has been a gift. Star words are meant to guide your year, offer you a touchstone for you to return to, and reflect on how your year is going. They are not meant to fix your year or to add one more thing to your ever-piling plate. They are meant to be a refuge, a way to reflect on where you find good and beauty in this world and where God is showing up in your life. And together this year, we'll practice this ritual together. During our final hymn, you will be invited to come forward and draw a star word from the basket up front. And if you're in the choir, I have a basket that will be passed to you all up there. The only thing I ask is you don't peek and you touch the first word, and you take the first word that your hand touches. We're letting the Spirit do her job today. And over the next few weeks, I invite you to ponder what you already know about this word and begin listening for how God is showing up in your life through this idea, this word, this star gift. And as you go, I offer you blessings on your journey. The road isn't straight, yet hope is abundant, and it will not let us go. Thanks be to God.